Did you know you can look up the payroll for everybody that works for the city of Los Angeles? Making this video in mid-October 2025, the website says it was last updated in September. And curiously, the highest paid LA City employee is an LAPD lieutenant named Eric Bixler. Lieutenants are not even on this command structure map. It is a senior position for sure, but definitely not typically among the highest earners. As of September 2025, Lieutenant Eric Bixler has earned $590,000. I'm sorry, what? How much? His base pay is $104,000. He's received, quote, other pay of $161,000. But considering Bixler left LAPD in the summer of this year, that other pay number isn't that shocking because it could be an entire career's worth of accrued but unused sick leave, paid time off, things like that. That's probably what that is. The number that I'm confused by is the $311,000 of overtime pay. And to put this gigantic salary into context, who would you guess is the highest paid LA City employee? It's not the mayor. It's not the chief of police, city council members.
Ooh, nope, there we go. Look at them, look at all of them. Collect them all.
Based on the July 10th press release announcing his start at the Monterey County Sheriff's Department, let's just assume that Bixler served LAPD up until June 1st of this year. So not only is Bixler the highest paid employee of 2025 as of September, he accrued this astronomical amount of overtime in the span of just 5 months. What is this?
What is this?
What is this?
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Where do we even begin?
Let's start here. Let's do the math and see if it's even humanly possible for somebody to work that much overtime in the span of 5 months.
It'd also be super cool if you liked and subscribed. You're not going to find this kind of content anywhere else. For example, I'm standing under a motion activated light and then I just riff comedy. I just riff a joke.
Technical difficulties.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more spontaneous quality.
In the minimum hours scenario, Bixler would have been working 124 hours a week, leaving him 6 hours off daily. That's 6 hours a day to sleep, do anything. In the maximum number of hours scenario, he would have been working 142 hours a week, leaving him 3.5 hours off every day to sleep and to do anything else he wanted to do in his life. There's so much about this that doesn't make sense. For one, he went from LAPD to Monterey County Sheriff's Department. LAPD is a globally recognized policing agency that's at the cutting edge of all kinds of things. And Monterey is a good place to play golf. Look at the ocean. This is weird and indicative of something going really sideways with LAPD operations. What is going on with the LAPD command where they cannot foresee how much it's going to cost to work one lieutenant this much, not to mention how grueling it is going to be on that individual? It seems like there's a story here, so let's look. Are there any circumstances present where it would be plausible that this LAPD lieutenant would have good reason to be working this much overtime in such a short time span before wrapping up his decades-long LAPD career, leaving the department and going to a sleepy town up north? It turns out, yeah, it appears Lieutenant Bixler put himself on the wrong side of then Chief of Police Michael Moore, as well as other LAPD brass of the ladder-climbing executive nature. I've been told before that you will find two sorts of police within a police department: actual police and pogues. Police are interested in doing the job of police work, while pogues are interested in climbing the ladder, accruing power, advancement, money, blah, blah, blah. And according to a civil case filed in LAPD Superior Court by Lieutenant Bixler and Detective
Jaramillo,
the contents of this complaint make it clear that they were attacked by pogues in pogue fashion. The LAPD's U.S. Marshals Task Force combines the resources and efforts of the Marshal Service with those of the LAPD to locate, arrest, and prosecute the most dangerous and violent criminals in LA. The task force is comprised of approximately 12 LAPD detectives and officers, 1 U.S. Marshal, and was supervised by Lieutenant 2 Eric Bixler and Detective Richard
Jaramillo.
To accomplish its mission, the task force employs the highest level of investigative skills, clandestine surveillance, and specialized tactics to apprehend dangerous criminal suspects. This complaint and this ongoing case is public record. You can look up the rest for yourself if you'd like to read it. But long story short, it would appear that LAPD brass, consisting of these two gentlemen in particular, Captain Mota and Deputy Chief Kowalski, started making life very hard for Lieutenant Bixler. No matter what you think about police, LAPD, objectively, these guys were doing one of the most dangerous jobs in policing in Los Angeles. The primary function of this task force was the apprehension of the scariest people at large we could possibly have in the city.
Is there something wrong with anything?
In 2023, the LAPD recognized this task force for its exceptional work by awarding it the Police Meritorious Unit Citation. Per the complaint, in 2022, the task force located and arrested over 322 murder, attempted murder, rape, child molestation, and other violent felony suspects. This is pretty remarkable. In that same year, they had no categorical uses of force. That means they hauled in 322
murder, attempted murder, rape, child molestation,
and other violent felony suspects without so much as deploying a taser. And in the midst of running this task force, doing important work, and apparently doing it well, they became the targets of Retribution. According to the complaint, they were stripped of the experienced officers they had on the task force, who were trained and synced and part of a team, like a dialed-in team that was succeeding, and trained specifically to function as the chase unit, and instead were given a revolving door of untrained, unprepared officers to do this job. And frankly, it appears that Lieutenant Bixler, although a supervisor, very much picked up the slack for his task force when this happened. Considering the importance of the task force and the dangerousness of doing that job day in, day out for the officers he was leading, it makes complete sense to me that he would be working 120 to 140 hours a week and looking for the door. No joke, the lives of Lieutenant Bixler and the officers assigned to that task force were being put at risk. So what exactly did Bixler and Jamario do that pissed off Chief Moore, Deputy Chief Kowalski, and Captain Mota this badly? How do you get into a position where the LAPD High Command is trying to crush you? And also doing so in a reckless way that compromises public safety as well. Well, a year or so prior, one of the officers assigned to the task force, who was part of the chase unit, named Derek Boykins, was being singled out to be reassigned to go be part of the bodyguard unit for Mayor Karen Bass. And what came to light is that LAPD Chief Moore had singled Boykins out because he was black. Now, the complaint says that this was an attempt by LAPD Chief Moore to pander to Mayor Karen Bass, but I've got my own ideas about that, having to do with LAPD's history of spying operations, but let's come right back to that in a minute. That Chief Moore had done this was confirmed by an LAPD captain named Brian Bixler, and that is Lieutenant Eric Bixler's brother. The complaint reads that Officer Boykins and Detective Jamario overheard a telephone conversation that Lieutenant Bixler had with his brother, Captain Brian Bixler, then a Captain 3 over Metro Division, during which Captain Bixler confirmed that Metro had received a directive from above to single out black officers for recruitment to the detail to be Mayor Karen Bass's bodyguard. Captain Brian Bixler further stated that if interviewed, he would tell the truth. So what we've got is this group of guys here felt that something wrong was happening, and they stuck together and were all prepared to be witnesses for one another and vouch for the claims of Boykins. They aligned in defense against the LAPD brass, and in response, the LAPD brass aligned against them. And there's more stuff in the complaint about other various forms of petty retribution, such as these guys getting involved in high-speed car chases, and then Captain Mota visiting consequences on them for not having worn their seatbelts during this high-speed chase. Seatbelts. All of these guys are no longer with LAPD. LAPD Chief Moore unexpectedly retired, stating that he wished to spend more time with family, which I call BS on. That sounds like BS.
My LAPD badge doesn't seem to glow anymore.
I would guess that it was Moore's time to go for X, Y, and Z reasons. What those reasons are, I don't know. But it could have something to do with the underworld nature of LAPD and how it actually operates, which I touched on before, LAPD's history of spy operations, which are off book.
Trying to rape the LAPD over a cheese grater?
Now's probably a good time to state that I'm not a journalist. I'm not journalistically trained. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm just a dude in a parking lot speculating for entertainment. But LAPD does and has run an expansive spying operation. The LAPD is a very powerful agency and it is very politically active. It is in LAPD's interest to have influence over the politicians of the city. And because of that, having intimate knowledge about what is going on in the mayor's office benefits the LAPD chief greatly. Depending on the level of trust that exists between a bodyguard and a protectee, a bodyguard could find him or herself very much on the inner circle with access to sensitive information that could then be relayed back quietly to the LAPD chief. In my opinion, I do not think that this kind of conflagration with the chief of police and all these officers and the LAPD brass flares up unless there is something pretty sensitive to conceal. Personally, and I'm just guessing, I find it highly improbable that Chief Moore would care so much to place a black officer in the black mayor's bodyguard detail just to, win points? Because she would like that? and expose LAPD legally, create so much conflict internally? No. My guess is that Chief Moore's calculation was that Mayor Karen Bass would be more likely to let her guard down around a black officer in her presence and allow that officer into her inner circle of trust. And I would guess that Officer Boykins knew full well that Chief Moore was trying to pull him from a unit where he was doing meaningful work to go be a spy in the mayor's office. Something like that. Now that would explain the derailment of this many careers. Nothing else seems to make much sense to me.
The LAPD, police department.